All right. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. I want to say thank you again for joining us for another panel discussion. This is part of the 9th Annual Entrepreneurship and Small Business Summit. This panel here is special. It's a panel in observance of National Black Business Month. This is Building the Black Economy, Part 1. All right. And this is the first part of 2 panels that we will have this month on building the Black economy and focusing on narrowing the wealth gap. So I just want to say good evening and welcome to Building the Black Economy, Part 1. Tonight's panel discussion is an observance of National Black Business Month. And we will discuss what these chambers are doing as part of an agenda to build and grow generational wealth in our Black communities. As chambers, there are many responsibilities realized in helping their members launch, grow, scale, and expand successfully. Our Black communities depend on businesses to launch and grow successfully in those communities so jobs can be created for disposable income to circulate within our local communities. With support from our chambers, businesses can scale and expand successfully to hire skilled graduates out of high school who are for those high-level trade, vocational, and administrative, or technical careers which do not require a college degree, or graduates out of college who bring the latest in academic assets and intellectual capital to the job market. Workforce development assists in training and optimizing talent for jobs with livable wages that supports the economic viability of our communities. Another opportunity present are the chambers assisting many of these individuals who lack access to critical resources, such as capital, to launch and grow sustainable businesses. With close to 1.6 trillion in purchasing power, Black consumers have money to spend. However, the Black dollar circulates in Black communities for 6 hours before it is spent outside our communities. With this level of disposable income and with the time a dollar is circulated with Black-owned businesses, it further contributes to the wealth gap and revenue shortfalls that we see, as these dollars are mostly spent with non-Black businesses. According to the US Census, there are approximately 3 million Black-owned businesses in America, of which almost 150,000 are employee-owned enterprises, generating over 145 billion in revenue combined. However, with those impressive stats, the wealth gap between Blacks and whites continues to be grossly disproportionate, with whites having 15 times greater combined wealth than African Americans. Racial inequality, deliberate discrimination of business practices, lack of access to contracts, discrimination in hiring and promotions, redlining of communities to negate Black home ownership, and other practices have contributed to the current state of our constrained wealth as a group. Building the Black economy is a topic through which we shall explore solutions to why the Black economy continues to miss gross opportunities to grow and be successful. Our chambers will discuss what each of them is doing here in the state of Georgia and internationally. We welcome the CEOs of each chamber and thank them for choosing to spend the evening with us for this critical conversation, which among others, from which we must move forward intentionally and unapologetically with solutions for our Black communities. I congratulate and recognize our Black-owned businesses for taking the risk to launch, grow, and scale their operations. We need you. We need you all to operate successfully. We appreciate the hard work and dedication to being part of the entrepreneurship ecosystem and contributing to the larger US economy. So thank you all for joining. And we thank especially our panelists. And at this time, I want to, before I turn over to our moderator, I just want to introduce you to Rhonda Solomon, Rose Solo, tell you a little bit about her, and then we'll move into the discussion. Rhonda Solomon is a mother, media correspondent, speaker, lifestyle coach, and international best-selling author whose integrity, dedication, authenticity, and tenacity have all earned her the reputation of being fearless. Affectionately known as the Phoenix, Rose demonstrates an innate ability to fearlessly move through life's challenges unscathed and continues in pursuit of what ignites the fire in her soul, which is helping others. Born to Caribbean parents, Rose spent her formative years in St. Anne's, Jamaica, where her passion for Caribbean culture and community was cultivated. American-born, Yardie raised Trinity to the bone is a phrase you will often hear Rose say to comically describe her diverse heritage. Throughout her multifaceted career, her ultimate mission has been to encourage others to remain in constant pursuit of their dreams, providing the tools, resources, and encouragement for others to turn their struggles into successes and their pain into purpose. Ro utilizes her various media platforms to spark conversations and awareness in her communities. Her authentic and honest approach to conducting interviews and interacting with her guests leaves audiences mesmerized and wanting more. Ro was featured in Vogue Atlanta in December 2018. Additionally, in 2019, Ro was honored with a nomination from Atlanta's Hottest Entertainment Awards for Atlanta's Hottest Red Carpet Host. And in 2023, she was honored with an Outstanding Georgia Citizen Award by the Secretary of State. Working with multiple media platforms, and the now syndicated Rose Solo Show is celebrating its 5th year on the air. In addition to her weekly podcast, Ro is co-host on 3 other weekly podcasts and talk shows. Ro put her fears to paper in the #1 international best-selling book, Broken Crayon, Still Color, Volume 2, Life After, with collaborating authors. In the fall of 2023, Ro will begin her most challenging adventure as the founder and owner of Phoenix Media, launching Phoenix Radio to international audiences. Ro's why is to master the art of encouraging others to uncover their identity by cultivating a love affair with their passions while manifesting a life living in their purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Rhonda Solomon, our moderator for this evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Austin. Oh my gosh, it sounds so good when you read it. Thank you so much. That was flattering. I often, I've never heard it read by someone else before, so it's nice to listen to. So thank you again for making me a part of this amazing event. It's an honor to moderate the first part of 2 events, and I thank you, Councilman Austin Thompson, for organizing this event and inspiring the conversation. And of course, thank you to all the panelists for being here, and to everyone who's logging in and on the Zoom, and everyone who's logging in on Facebook. Share the live, share the feeds, share the link to Zoom, so we'll have question and answers later. But before we get into the conversation, I'm just going to introduce our panelists. And after I do the introductions, I will let each of them tell you a little bit more about themselves. So I'm not going to read their full bio. I'm going to let them tell you a little bit about themselves. And Ronald, Dr. Ronald, you told me how to pronounce your last name and I forgot. So I'm just going to say Dr. Ronald, Chair of Global Opportunities Committee, Atlanta Black Chambers. Dr. Ronald has a dynamic dual passion for education and business with extensive experience in both realms. He has dedicated himself to fostering small business development in communities across Georgia and Haiti. As the founder of the BEL Initiative Fellowship, Dr. Ronald spearheads an entrepreneurial exchange program for aspiring entrepreneurs in Haiti. Please welcome Dr. Ronald to the panel. We thank you for being here. Stephanie Logan Citro, CEO, Liberian Chamber of Commerce in America. Stephanie was born in Jamaica, West Indies. She has a background in law and corporate administration and has worked in the areas of law and in medical field for the majority of her adult life. She now drives the vision for the Liberian Chamber of Commerce in America. And as I told her before, I think we're related, but we worked it out. We are, so we'll talk more about that later. Please welcome Stephanie to the panel. Dr. Joan Wright Good, Executive Member of Jamaica Chamber of Commerce, Yardie. Dr. Joan Wright Good is an accomplished international speaker, a preacher, a business coach, best-selling author, and award-winning CEO. Her expertise lies in empowering individuals to harness their gift, talent, and purpose, leveraging them into financial success. Born in Kingston, Jamaica, Dr. Joan overcame significant challenges throughout her life. The most recent was the loss of her spouse, our condolences. Her remarkable journey began at the Maxfield Park Children's Home, a government-run orphanage, and led her to the pinnacle of success, including meeting the President of the United States in 2016 and being recognized for her outstanding achievements in business. She is an ordained minister of gospel. She also teaches from the experience of wealth, wholeness, and salvation can be obtained without compromise. Please welcome Dr. Joan Wright Good to the panel. Ricardo Baris, Chair of Global Communities Committee, Atlanta Black Chambers, is a serial entrepreneur, investor, speaker, and coach. He founded the MI Group of companies in 2010 to help entrepreneurs who are challenged with technology and marketing to grow and scale their business. MI Group Colombia and MI Group Bahamas, and focuses on a software development, digital marketing, digital infrastructure, and SaaS products for non-technical businesses throughout the Caribbean, North America, Central and South America. Through his companies, Ricardo has led successful projects with various organizations worth over $100 billion combined, including, but not limited to, government department, retail banks, hotels, such as the Courtyard Marriott, the Warwick, Ocean Clubs, quick service restaurants, such as McDonald's, Burger King, KFC, and Domino's, and universities, such as Florida National University and Nova Southeastern, to name a few. Please welcome Ricardo Baris to the panel. I think I did it all. So yes, welcome all. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being a part of the conversation. I look forward to moderating this conversation. I'm honored because I'm with smart people. I never want to be the smartest person in the room. So we look forward to anyone. Of course, if you have questions during the conversation, drop your questions in the chat. If you're unable to speak when we have the question and answer segment, then I will, myself or Austin, we will read your questions for you. So to the panelists, let's get started. To the panelists, please briefly tell us what your industries do for our members. What industries do your members represent? And what is unique about your chamber? And I'll start with you first, Dr. Ron.
Okay, so good evening, everybody, and I'm excited to be here with you all and excited to have this conversation. I won't take too long because I really want to get to the good stuff. But here, as the president of the Georgia Haitian American Chamber of Commerce, we're super excited to be involved in this conversation. But some of the industries that are involved, at least that are in our chambers, expand probably very similar to other chambers, but they include everything from media, advertising. We have real estate, of course, construction. We have those that are in the international trade space, so those who do trading and also import export, if you will. Finance and insurance, legal field, renewable energy. We have restaurant business, the arts, sports, retail, e-commerce, you name it. So it's very diverse. We're pretty much I'd say almost in most industries, education as well. So I'm pretty sure it'll be the same across many other chambers as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Joan Wright Good, same question to you. Please briefly tell us about what industries do your members represent and what, of course, is unique about your chamber.
Okay, thank you for that question. Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Councilman Thompson, for this opportunity as well. Just like the previous speaker, the businesses we represent are financial, real estate, book publishing, engineering, restaurants, of course, workforce development, health aid, business, and education. Those are most of the industries that the Atlanta Chamber of Commerce, Jamaica Chamber of Commerce of Atlanta covers.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Joan Wright Good. Cousin Stephanie, briefly tell us about what industries your members represent and what, of course, is unique about your chamber.
I'm not going to be repetitive because, like everyone else, we cover the same thing. So I'm not going to be repetitive. Everything what everybody else said, we mostly have a lot of healthcare people and in tech. And I think the unique thing about the Liberia Chamber of Commerce in the Americas is that we're one of 35 national chambers in the state of Georgia.
Thank you.
Quick
Thank
and
you.
simple.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We have a good conversation coming, so that's fine. And Ricardo, how are you this evening?
Great. Thank you, Rhonda. Good evening, everyone. I'm elated to be here to share with you. I think the same question applies to me.
Yes, sir.
So I'm not the president for the Atlanta Black Chamber, but I sit on the leadership team and I do chair the Global Opportunities Division of the Chamber. And most of my responses and discussions are going to come through the eyes of an entrepreneur, as I am a lifestyle entrepreneur, and this is what I do. But I do think one of the unique things for the Atlanta Black Chamber is it represents Black excellence in Atlanta. It's one of the largest chamber in the country that focuses on empowering Black businesses. And our members are diverse across products and services. We've got just a lot going on in any given day to really empower and allow our businesses to grow. We believe in Black businesses. We believe in the growth of Black businesses. We believe in their prosperity. So all of our programming are designed around ensuring that those things happen on a daily basis for our members.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I often, of course, Austin, as professional as he is, has given us a panel of questions. But of course, he knows me, and I'm going to think of what I want to say and what I want to ask. But for me, I just wanted to know what inspired each of you to join, to be a member of the chamber and feel that you need to join the chamber. What was the initial inspiration behind you joining the chamber? Dr. Joan Wright.
You know what? I'll answer this question by answering the second part of what I didn't answer. What makes the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce of Atlanta unique? What makes us unique is the opportunity that everyone gets to voice their own thoughts and decisions and mindset, and then coming together to make one united decision. The Jamaica Chamber of Commerce of Atlanta, we have a section that is dedicated to women empowerment. And so while we're empowering the community, we're empowering businesses, entrepreneurs, and all other facets, we have a safe space where women can come and be a part of the whole decision. And that safe space is called POWHER. And that's the committee that I chair. And that was one of the driving forces that really stood out to me and motivated me to be a member of the chamber.
Yes, that's an amazing event, and it happens yearly. Hopefully you're doing it again this year. I have been on the panel before.
On November.
It's very exciting. So hint, hint, I had a good time. Look, hint, hint. So
Awesome.
Stephanie, what inspired you to join your commerce? You were Jamaican raised, Jamaican born, you're in the Liberian commerce. What inspired you?
Well, actually, I founded the Liberia Chamber of Commerce. So back in 2016, I was always in the Liberian community, in everybody's community, as a matter of fact. And I always loved to help people develop their business, marketing, and so forth. And 2016, the Liberia Community Association was having their annual Independence Day celebrations. And the Council General, Cynthia Blanford, sat beside me at the table. And she said, Stephanie, you're doing all this business stuff for everybody in the community. Why don't you start the Liberia Chamber of Commerce? Because we don't have one. And I brushed it off like, oh, girl, I'm too busy for all of that, because I was in the community. I was helping with the administration and all the other stuff that I was doing separate from that. Then in 2017, when I left the administration, I partnered with another individual, Dennis Ja, and we started FOL, Focus on Liberia. It was an online platform for news and everything. We educate, elevate, promote all things Liberian. And on that platform, as we grew, at the end of 2017, Dennis said, Steph, aren't you going to revisit this idea of the chamber? And I thought to myself, oh, yeah, because a lot of people keep approaching me. How did they develop their business? How did they do this? So 2018, I leaped and said, okay, we registered the Liberia Chamber of Commerce, and it's been a bumpy ride ever since. So it's been a great ride. So that's, the passion was started from doing what I was doing, just making it into a formal platform.
Thank you for that. Thank you for the inspiration of starting the librarian committee.
Oh, and
Um,
I'm also married to a librarian, so.
I thought you were going to say that first. So
Yeah, no, yeah,
you
well,
know,
it came later, so.
wasn't my business to say, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Ricardo, what inspired you to join your committee, or your chamber,
Well,
excuse me?
So I got to give a big shout out because I never said that earlier. I'm also Jamaican. My mom was I was born in Jamaica. I was raised up there. Mom Jamaican, dad was Cuban. God rest him. And so I'm always happy to be in the mix of my my Jamaican folks and my Caribbean people. So you all should be proud of yourself, because oftentimes when I'm in rooms like this, we kind of dominate, no offense, but it's just how determined we all are. And we have a certain tenacity that the land, wood, and water, only that can give us. So if you don't have that, then you probably won't. But anyways, I just had to say that. But
you just figure out where your location is.
the inspiration behind, so I've always been an entrepreneur. I only had one real job as an intern, and then ever since I launched my first company. And one of the things that entrepreneurship has taught me is that relationships are the lifeblood of your business. And in order to get relationships, you can't put an ad on Facebook or on TV and expect that to actually work. Real relationships are actually built in real situations. You go to events and you go out, connect with people. As my advisor will say, pressing the flesh still works. You got to shake hand and connect with people. Just moving to Atlanta a couple of years ago, one of the things that I wanted to do was to find organizations that I could do that with. And I realized the chamber was one such organization, and meeting folks there, it was very, very welcoming. And before you knew it, I was told that there's no global opportunities division for the chamber, because for some reason, I'm not sure, most cities always think that that's the world. Like Miami folks think that Miami is the world. Atlanta folks, again, no offense if you're in Atlanta or you're from Atlanta, but people always sometimes subscribe to the idea that this is their world and they never explore the rest. I'm actually talking to you from Cali, Colombia, just got here this afternoon, and we're bringing 25 companies for the first time from Atlanta, all Black businesses, to explore trade, partnership, and investment opportunities here in Cali. Because you should know, Cali has the second largest concentration of Africans behind Brazil, right? And so this is a big part of why I joined the chamber, to be able to afford these opportunities to our businesses, because our business has to grow. But the way growth is happening now, if we're not looking outside the box and thinking outside the box, we're not going to be achieve those kinds of growth. You heard the statistics earlier about we still are just one-man show. And in order for us to get out of that rut, we've got to think differently. We've got to do things differently. And coming on delegations and trade missions as Black businesses to places where there are large African or Black diaspora is a big start, because they need services and they need products. They want to do business. And if you check the statistical probability, what's the likelihood of doing business with each other? It's pretty high. And I think we should take advantage of that. So those are some reasons why I think being a part of the chamber and what drove me to be a part of this community.
Thank you, Ricardo. Dr. Ronald, same question for you. What inspired you to join your chamber?
Sure. So I actually found my chamber by mistake. So I had moved to Atlanta. My story was a little different. Haitian American, born in Miami, Florida, moved to Georgia. And I was moving to Atlanta, and I was actually on my way to the Consul General's office. And I put in the GPS, I forgot the address, and then the Georgia Haitian American Chamber of Commerce popped up. And I went directly there. I ran into the president then, who was Sorrel Catan, and we sat down, we talked for like an hour, 2 hours, and he signed me up right then and there. There was no question about it. I talked about everything that I had envisioned as far as some of the things that I wanted to see within our community, what I wanted to see for Haiti. And right then and there, it was a journey that I just would never have imagined would have happened. But it led me into this community that we continue to create today, as far as really having this vision that expands the ecosystem here in Atlanta. And like Ricardo was talking about, having us think outside of just the community here and looking at how we can actually collaborate with internationally, not even just in Haiti, but other countries as well.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Dr. Ronald, because it takes me to my next question. So are your chambers engaged in international activity, bilateral trade, business exchanges, training? And if so, what exactly are your chambers doing internationally? I'll just go back to you, Dr. Ronald, since you just had your mic open.
Sure. So, when I first joined the chamber, one of the things that I told Sorrel was that I really wanted to create, because I come from a higher education background, and I really wanted to create a program, because I had met so many Haitians here, Haitian Americans that were doing great things in the diaspora. They were in all so many different professions. They were at the top of their game. And I was really big on the knowledge transfer aspect of things. And so that is when we launched the Bell Initiative program, which essentially was an exchange program, one of its kind, that focused on bringing Haitian based entrepreneurs to the US here for a few weeks and give them exposure to different opportunities and the diaspora here, so they can actually go back to Haiti and expand what they're doing with the support of the diaspora, the chamber, and the resources that they gain access to here in the US. So we're really big on the knowledge transfer and the education in the sense of the education, but also connecting those opportunities for the diaspora and those here to actually invest back into the country. So the first year that we did it, one of the businesses, we only started with like 4 businesses. It was a pilot, and one of them went back with a partnership with one of our businesses here in the chamber. The second year we did it, we had someone who wanted to invest, or a few people who wanted to invest, and about, I believe, like 7 of them received an offer for an investment in their enterprise. And so we continue to grow the program. Is still going today, but this is one of the aspects in which we are doing business internationally. It starts with education for me personally. I think education is very important, and then connecting them with those resources so that not only do they get the support that they need in Haiti, but those who are here who are looking to expand what they're doing here in the US also have the opportunity to explore that in Haiti while they're actually supporting the economy.
Thank you, Dr. Ronald. Stephanie, your chamber is new, or your chamber is a newer chamber, but what initiatives are you working on internationally?
Babies, we're still in our diapers. Yeah, we're currently working on many different things right now. A lot of things that we're working on, there's a lot of things that happen in Liberia. We have business members that are here in the diaspora that actually do invest and have businesses back home, but there's not a proper business registry developing. So we're working with the business registry in Liberia, develop them and make sure the kind of update them so it's more like here in the diaspora. Right now, as it stands, it's very archaic. It's paperwork, it's lawyers notarizing, and there's no registry to say you can vet the businesses, and even to do the articles of incorporation, it's hand typed. So these are things that we're working here to develop those businesses back home and also upgrade certain things, because in Liberia, there's not a lot of export when it comes to agriculture. There is, but it's not a lot, because they need development, because they don't have FDA approval standards to be able to export a lot of their products. So we are working with them to more ship within the ECWAs until we can develop more upgraded protocols for them to be able to export into the diaspora. So those are some of the projects that we're working on, and others, like my mind is all over the place on different things, but we work integrated with both having businesses here, investors here go to Liberia, and also Liberian people, investment and businesses here as well, back and forth.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie. Dr. Joan. You're muted. You're muted, Dr. Joan. We can't hear you.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Well, we just had a business meeting with the Minister of Commerce and Trade of Jamaica, and he shared quite a few needs that the country currently have, and we have been dialoguing with him on these specific industries and trade opportunities. Right now, we are working on quite a few things, but they are in the embryonic stage. There's some things that we're rolling out in 2024 that will help the help to bring solutions to the needs that the minister did bring forth to the chamber.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And later on, I'm going to ask you what you need to speak directly to our diaspora, the people on the panel, the people on the live, the people who will listen to the recording after in upcoming weeks, and tell them exactly what you need to move forward with your particular chambers with assistance from our diaspora. Ricardo, I don't think I asked you what initiatives you are working on internationally.
Yeah, well, thanks, Rhonda. So like I mentioned earlier, a part of the Global Opportunities Division for the Chamber, I chair that committee. And our focus is really to provide information and access to opportunities across trade and partnerships and investment around the world for our members. And we do this through just a curated design of programming for webinars. We just had a webinar on opportunities in Europe, where we had our friends from UK and Barcelona and Germany. These are all Black-owned businesses, by the way, and they have essentially been dealing with things on the ground. I always kind of like to take things to the street. It's, you know, sometimes when you go through certain channels, you don't really see the true the trueness, if you may, of the realities on the ground. And so we like to then talk to these folks who can point us to the opportunities and connect our members. So we do webinars, we do in-person workshops, we do inbound and outbound delegation. We recently received the ambassador for Zimbabwe a few weeks ago, and we have been planning. We had a press conference on Tuesday. Our press release reached 5 million people across the country. We had the ambassador for Colombia who was at that press conference. I'm in Colombia, as I stated. We just landed today, but the entire group is going to be here over the weekend and going to be spending a few days here exploring these opportunities. These are the things that we want to do more of. It's historic, but the reality is it shouldn't have to be. Because when you look at the international table and who is sitting around, you don't see a lot of our people. How do we fix that? How do we change that so that it becomes a default behavior? Like, we shouldn't be talking about these things as they're historics and they're, I know there's got to be a first time for everything, but we should get in the modality of doing these things. And one thing I'd like to do with the panelists here as well is to facilitate more collaboration, because I'd love to work with you, Dr. Wrightgood. We've worked together on some other stuff that you're doing in Liberia, but the biggest challenge with the various chambers, from my perspective as an entrepreneur, I see that we lose a lot of money and we lose a lot of effort. Money is, they say time is money. We can argue that it might not be, but you've heard that before. And if we're looking to generate more opportunities, economic opportunities for our members, collaboration is going to be the key word going into the next 10, 20 years. Collaboration, partnerships, really facilitating working with each other, because who says that we can't go to Jamaica as well and we can't go to Haiti? Who says we can't do this collectively? To be able to have a stronger voice. We know that the power and the strengths are in the numbers. And so this is one of the things that I think is really going to make us special as a people, because our people are out there and there are lots of needs. We're going to be headed to Zimbabwe in Q1 of 2024, and you're all welcome to come and join us, because there are needs there as well. But we do want to facilitate those opportunities in the Bahamas, in the Caribbean, in other parts of the region. And that's, I think those are the things that really are top of mind for us.
Thank you, Ricardo. Austin alluded to and mentioned this in his introduction, and I think we often forget the power of the Black dollar, right? Currently, whites have 15 times more combined wealth than Blacks, and he alluded to a lot more. But in your opinions, what options do we have to build and grow generational wealth in our Black communities? I'll start with you, Dr. Joan Wright. Good.
I would want to say one of the first things that we need to do is to educate our people more. It's obvious historically that there are a lot of disparities that we face as Black and Brown people. Though we can't change that. We can't change history, but we can change our current and we can change our future. And two of the biggest things I can think about is collaboration that was just mentioned. I think many people are disenfranchised because we are dismembered. We're all over the place. Like, the head is over here and the neck is over there, and then we expect to have a wholesome body. It can't work like that. So I think coming together and put our thoughts together, put our Black dollars together, spend our money in our community, and make sure that we are investing in us. It's so funny that we tend to spend our money outside of the community, and we endorse every other nationality, every other culture, and every other race, excepting our own. We are quicker to judge and question our own people than to take the time to know and to educate ourselves. I think for the educational aspect of it, even though we can't change history, what we can do, I believe, is to start educating our own children. Well, I don't think we should wait until children are teenagers and young adults to teach them about how to use credit cards, how to, what to invest in. Parents who are entrepreneurs, I hired my kids when, in my business. Now they're grown and they're off to doing their own thing. But we need to, I look at the Jews all the time, and they start educating their children as early as they can say mama and dada. As soon as they can talk, they start teaching them about money, the value of investment, and they don't get involved after they've taught them. They allow them to make their own decisions, to make their own mistakes so that they can learn from them. So I believe we need to change policies. I believe we need to educate our children, not just show them how to save by putting money in a jar and a piggy bank. Show them and teach them how to invest, what to invest in, what's the time to invest, how to leverage, how to start a business, how to scale. Because making money is not the important thing. It's knowing how to keep the money, how to leverage the money, and how to build generational wealth and legacies.
Thank you, Dr. Wright. Good. Stephanie, what options do you think we have to build and grow generational wealth in our Black
I am totally on track with Dr. Joan Ryan when it comes to financial literacy programs. We need to develop more of those financial literacy programs, and we need to start developing them from the young age, just like how she said. I agree 100% with that. I also think that it's very important that our community learns about investments in real estate. Real estate is key. It's a generational wealth building opportunity. So I think that is something that we also need to learn about, real estate investments, building entrepreneurship, just like Dr. Joan Wright said, building those young entrepreneurs. These young people nowadays, they have so many ideas, niche market ideas, that especially during COVID time, I saw that a lot of people developed these little small ideas that blossomed into these multi-million-dollar corporations. So building entrepreneurship and enhancing those entrepreneurial spirits in young people, that's another thing that I think is great. And stock market participation. We need to learn about the stock market, the value of the stock market. So I think these are things that help build generational wealth within our communities.
Thank you, Stephanie. Dr. Ronald, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody hit on, some of the key aspects in terms of what it's going to take. And, one of the things I just add on, I'm big on education. So that's always like for me, number one, because I do believe that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what tools or resources, and I see it all the times with entrepreneurs, even in the programs that we run, it doesn't matter what resources that we throw at them, even when it comes to capital. If they're not educated, don't understand what to do with it, it's a waste at the end of the day. And so you end up wasting a lot of time and energy. So education is key. And when I say education, it's not always just formal education. I try to be very careful with that. I also believe that as, and maybe I'm going a little too far or deep here with this, but I think as a people, there might need to be some basic philosophical things we need to adopt to change our mindsets or what we actually believe in. Because what happens is even though we might have the intention to do certain things, the US is a very capitalistic country. We instill a lot of individualism. And so while we are wanting the Black community to come up and restore some of these things it's going to take for us to move together as a community, that means we have to shift the way we think, which means I can't always be thinking about how I'm going to one up everybody else and get what I get, and then I'm done as soon as I get mine. But what does that look like community-wise? What does it look like when, as Ricardo mentioned, which he, took one of the things I thought about, we're part of the chamber is part of, our chamber is part of the Federation of Chambers, right? The Georgia Federation of Chambers. Why isn't there a Black Federation of Chambers, Federation of Black Chambers, if you will, right? Because we have a unique thing that we're dealing with as people across the world, in which we need to understand that there is some sense of unity that we need to understand and operate as we are starting to adopt this education. Because if we don't understand why we're doing it and why it's important for us to work together and learning how to reach back, learning why it's important to support other Black businesses, learning why it's important to support others in our community and reaching back to help one another, I think we eventually lose that as people gain some kind of success. And it doesn't pass down generationally, because philosophically, there are some morals and philosophies that even those who are passing down generational wealth, when they're in their families, they're passing down certain things.
Yeah.
This is how you act. This is how you behave. This is how you think. As I say, this is how we do things, right? That happens generationally. If that doesn't happen within our own families first, and then as a community, it just gets lost over the next couple of years and decades. And the only other thing I'd say is we need to start having long-term plans. I know it's very hard sometimes when we're coming from backgrounds that are from, we don't have a lot, but when you look at other cultures and countries like China, who has like a 200-year plan, that seems like crazy to us. But this is real life. Like they have 100-year, 50-year, 100-year, 200-year plans. We need to start thinking like that. And again, it forces us to get out of being, what can I just get out of this in my lifetime? But what about my kids, my grandkids? That's true generational wealth, when it can actually pass through at least 3 generations, which is what they call dynastic wealth. If you're not thinking about how this is going to last over the next 200 years, and you're only thinking about how you're going to get rich in your lifetime, that's not really generational wealth. So those are some things I think we need to really consider.
Thank you, Dr. Setu. And before we speak about the challenges, I just wanted again to welcome everyone to the conversation. Thank you to everyone who's joined on the Zoom call. Thank you to everyone who's joined on the live. The panelists are absolutely awesome. Ricardo Baris, Dr. Joan Wright-Good, Stephanie Logan Citro, and Dr. Setu. Did I say that right? I think I got it.
You got it.
I think I got it right. So some of you have touched on some of the challenges that we're having in our community with the building of Black wealth and stabilizing the wealth within our community. Of course, we talk about financial education, and that's the one thing I always find that, we'll talk about a lot of things. I can have, conferences, I can have brunches about various topics, but once I'm going to do a brunch about finances, it's a struggle to get participants. What are the challenges that we're having? Why are we having these challenges? I know we were taught certain ways and we have to change the way we were taught. We have learned behaviors, but what are some of the other challenges that we're having within our community that's causing this huge gap? Okay, I guess I should say who should speak first. Dr. Wright, your mic is open. Dr. Joan Wright, go ahead. Good, go ahead.
Okay, so there are quite a few, but I want to start with the mindset and what
Yes.
we have been trained as
Yes.
kids. I don't know about anybody else, but you've read my bio, you know I come from a churchy background.
Yeah.
And one of the things we've been told, especially in Jamaica, is that one, money is the root of all evil, right? That's a misquote of the scripture. It's the love of money. People are also told.
Can you repeat that? Can you repeat that for those who didn't hear in the back of the room?
The Bible says it's the love of money, not money itself, because it goes on and said, money answereth all things. In other words, you need money to take care of everything. So money is not evil, it's the love of it, right? Another thing we're told is that rich people are evil and rich people are thieves, right? And we're also told that if you have, let's say you buy a luxury car, or if you have a big house, then you're prideful and you're bossy. Only bossy people have certain things. And so what happened is that children grow up thinking that, oh, I shouldn't like money because it's evil. And I shouldn't own things because it's prideful and people are not going to like me. It's human nature to want to be liked. If you're in business, we all know this. People have to know, like, and trust you to give you their money. And so it's human nature to want to be liked. So how do you associate what you've been taught to the reality of what you've been now educated to be a lie, right? And so people are afraid to have the money conversation. The narrative that they've built around money, it's so amazing when, when I work with my clients and they're so gifted, they have all the talents, they have the resources, but they're afraid to manage money. They're afraid because they also don't know the value of saying no. So another example I'll give, over this summer, I have been hit with requests upon requests upon requests. Somebody needs something for back to school. Somebody needs surgery. I've gotten so many requests. And there came a time where I had to start saying no to some people because I gave all that I had set aside for charity. And so sometimes, because we haven't valued and know that no is a complete sentence, and no doesn't mean that it's not now. It's just mean not right now. It doesn't mean not ever, just not right now. And so again, the conversations that we tell ourselves about money. Another thing too, again, we spoke about it, the lack of financial education. We don't understand that money in itself don't make you rich, because there are a lot of people who are rich, but they don't have money. You need money along with other things. We see a lot of people who are rich, but they're nasty. They don't have peace. They don't have joy. So it's not just about money. So we have to change the entire narrative around money and make sure that we are changing the conversation. We're bringing people to the table who came from nothing and have now understood what it means to pull yourself up, even if it's by the bootstring.
I like that. Thank you. Thank you. The mindset piece is key. We have to change our mindset, and we want to emulate our parents and we want to emulate our grandparents, but we have to change the way we approach certain conversations and situations. And we're struggling with that. It's a true challenge for our community and our diaspora. Stephanie, you mentioned real estate. So let me speak for the person who says, well, I don't have no money. I don't have any money. How you want me to invest in real estate? I'm not no money, right? That's a conversation that we have in our community. A lot of people don't understand, and I've spoken with realtors, and I've spoken to people, entrepreneurs who are in real estate, who say you don't need it. We have this, again, to what Dr. Joan Wright was saying, the mindset. We need to change our mindset because you don't necessarily need money. So speak to that. To those who possibly want to get into real estate, possibly want to understand how they can start investing, because you're absolutely right. Real estate is key for us to start growing in our Black wealth.
There are many, many programs available that basically have no money down, and you can get loans from banks and so forth in regards to fixing up old properties. even if it's economic development in or community development in an area, they have programs that if you're going in to invest in that property to build it up to make that property look better for the community. There are many programs that can help you build that portfolio, that real estate portfolio. You just have to be able to find them. And there are many people out there. I'm not a real estate expert. I myself is just now delving into it and learning about it. But it was amazing to me to find out some of these opportunities and sometimes you have to invest some type of money. And it's in one opportunity that I heard about that you only had to invest like $1. Like these are things that are out there, these actual programs that are out there that are able for us to start building that wealth. And you just start off small. It doesn't have to be a big development. It could be a shack that you build and it could turn out to be wonderful and you just invest and so forth. And then a lot of people do flipping. And that's something that I'm interested in is flipping the properties where you buy property, you fix it up and you sell it and that profit you buy another property, or you could do Airbnbs. That's the biggest thing now. Everybody and their mama is doing Airbnbs and that's a global thing. It's not just here, it's everywhere. We've had many of our members have Airbnbs. And even some of our executive team, they have Airbnbs in different parts of the country, Ghana, Liberia, Colombia, all over the place. They have Airbnb. So that's another thing that's considered also type of real estate investment. But there are other things that also are challenges to our wealth. And I believe things that we need to discuss also is healthcare. These are main issues that we adapt, especially we as Black women. These are issues that are very bad. And also education, criminal justice. These are all things that need to be revamped, addressed, touched on, and revamped. So there's a lot of things that are historical disadvantages that have helped us not to advance and create that wealth and financial opportunities, access to equal education. These are all things that I've heard horror stories about people going to these elite colleges, our people going to elite colleges, and the experiences that they had has been very racist. How do we combat that? How do we make them feel safe in an environment where education, and they've earned that spot. It wasn't given to them, they've earned it. So these are the things that I look at every day and think about. I have 4 grandchildren now. My children are all grown. And I think about their futures, and their future education and those things. So yeah, these are things that are hindering our growth.
Great points. Thank you, Stephanie. Great points. I love the mention of the education, especially when we earned the right to go to Ivy League colleges. And I had a niece that went to Harvard, and her experience, although she enjoyed her time there and she was very successful, it was very challenging. There were many nights we were on the phone with her, talking her through the tears and the moments of, I just can't do it anymore. I don't want to be here. I want to come back. But now she's a doctor. So there we go. She moved through it. So it's very important. And it's the support as well, because, things are going to happen. We can't change the perspective of others, but we can change how we react to it and the support we give our children when they enter into these environments. Ricardo, talk to me about the challenges that you see that we're facing in our community.
Well, so there are a few things, and if I can just go back a little bit to that initial question that you had asked. So I think education is necessary, but I think practical education is even so more. I was in South Africa a few months ago, and I met a guy who says, we really admire you Americans. And one of the needs that we have in Africa is that we need that education that you have. We need that information. And I said, brother, when I'm in America, one of the things that I observe with our people is that we have a seminar, a workshop, a summit, a conference. We've got something every single day on the calendar, and we're just gobbling information in all up to our neck. But do you know what the problem is? We don't know how to execute on none of that. So you meet us 6 months after today, and we are still the same. Like, we didn't get the practical component. And I said, my wish for you in Africa is that you don't seek to be educated or be informed like how we are, but you go beyond that and understand the executables for that, because this is how we're going to change things. If you connect the dots, as Steve Jobs says, you can see where things are going. How long did it take us to get here? How long has it taken us to have this conversation? How long is it going to take us to get to the next level? It's a lot of years. And if we're going to fix that, we've got to be able to think very differently. So I believe in education, but I believe strongly in, if we're designing these education curriculum or programs, we've got to implement the practical components of things. You know, how do you invest in the stock markets? There's a lot of information about that and real estate and so forth, but are we pulling these folks and putting them into places where these things are actually taking place, right? Let's put someone in a room where there's a deal on real estate. If you know about it, let's give them these things so they can actually see it. I think that would be a huge difference. So I think you can look at it as a challenge. The lack thereof is what's holding us back. And I think if we can fix that, you know, along with that collaboration. Now, I'm a technologist, and I believe that, you know, like my good friend says, software is eating the world, and it is true. But whose world is not really eating is ours, because what we do, for us, for my people or Black folks, I feel like we are still in slavery when it comes to tech, because we have this digital plantation and we are digital slaves and we own none of it. We use it every day. The statistics says that we've spent the majority of our time just on the plantation doing, but we don't own none of it. And if we need the collaboration, if we need the practical components of the education, if we need these things to happen, we must know how to own these things ourselves. And it's not just real estate. Yeah, I build software for a living, but I believe software can bring us closer together and we can become owners in these things. Do you know how many Black diasporas that are not living in Africa today that exist around the world? Millions. There are millions of us. But the challenges that we're having are some of the things that are holding us back, and technology is one of them. We need to get out of the minutia of just being a user. The people make tons of money from us because we don't seek to own. And this is very, very important. I was in a conversation with a partner a few weeks ago, and they're from Barcelona, and they're making AI technology. You can build your own AI. You build your own AI, but the infrastructure doesn't belong to us. And it's like, so how do we own this? Who is going to allow us to be able to own this kind of stuff? Don't get caught up in the AI, you know, drama, and you don't have any ownership at the end of the day, because people are going to monetize your knowledge, right? People are going to do exactly that, and you're going to be 30 years from now in the same position that we were today. We can't have it. So you've got to ask about the ownership. Anything that you're touching and you're doing, you've got to be able to do that. So I think those are some of the things that I feel, if we can solve those, I believe you know, our future would look very, very different.
Thank you, Ricardo. Dr. Ronald, you're next.
So I was just eating up what Ricardo was saying. I was like doing the back in my head.
Because I have follow-up questions for you, Ricardo, because you say we have to learn how to, you know, work through technology, but the question is how. You know, we say it, but then how? You know, we're Facebooking and TikToking and Xing, whatever Twitter is now, and all that stuff. That's the extent that most of us do. You know, we post and live through the social media, and then we think we're technically savvy, and we're not. So after Dr. Ronald, I'll come back and more the discussion. And Austin, yes, I've thrown your questions all over the world. So Dr. Ronald,
okay.
Go ahead.
I might have forgotten the question because I was so immersed into it.
So it was about the challenges that we're experiencing to build the black wealth in our community. What challenges are we, and we've had, you know, criminal justice, healthcare, education, of course, financial education, which I know is key to you. Technology, as Ricardo mentioned before. But what are the challenges do you think we face in our community while we're not reaching where we need to be in our community when it comes to Black wealth?
Yeah, so you know, I'm going to start with naturally, you know, when you look at wealth or generational wealth, a lot of us are still starting from scratch. So there's the intergenerational transfer in knowledge and wealth that still kind of needs to happen with us. We're still maybe 1 or 2 generations in, most of us. There are some that kind of have it, but we're learning how to build some of that. So it hasn't quite happened for us just yet. And even those of us who have wealth, we're not out of the red yet, because that actually has to now transfer to our kids and then our grandkids. And like I said, what true dynastic wealth is when you're able to hit at least 3 generations. And some of us are really thinking very short term. How can I get rich quick? And so it also plays into what Ricardo mentioned earlier, as far as maybe even having practical education. One of the things what my dissertation was on, the program that I was doing, it was talking about the practicality of the American entrepreneurship education with foreign entrepreneurs. So we have programs like mine, and then like the Mandela Washington Fellows that teaches African entrepreneurs, and we instill these American principles and concepts and things, and teach them all this entrepreneurial stuff. But when they go back to their communities, does that actually work? Right? Because a lot of these concepts are passed down from people who are within a certain space, who have access to certain resources, and then they're coming to you and saying, well, just do this. I don't know why it's so hard. Now that I shared the information with you, why can't you do it? Well, maybe you're just not smart enough. But does that really work in the Black community? Does that work within the immigrant community here that we have? And so these are some nuances, I think, where some people might get stuck, because there is just the practicality of it sometimes. And then that leads sometime into, we have to be careful where some of us within our community, we're showy people. We are. I think we're showy people in a sense. When I say that as Black people, I think Caribbean, Black, whatever, region Black, we're just very showy people. And so even when it comes to education, I'm looking at a lot of these courses and education that we provide. A lot of it is just for show. It's not really, when you look at the instructors and people that are teaching it, have they really done this? And there's sometimes they have such a shallow knowledge of what they're teaching. And so we end up spending a lot of money and time doing this stuff. And when our people go into these courses and spend their efforts into that, they kind of feel hopeless, because now they're being taught by somebody who's really just trying to make money off of courses, if you will. So I think that part of the education, unfortunately, that's one small piece of it. But I do think sometimes that kind of impacts how we as a people might be consuming the education and our belief in all of this. And then there is the consumption of, like Ricardo was talking about, consumers and not being producers. And we really have to take a strong turn and learn how to produce. I was in Miami with my nieces and nephews. I have like 12 nieces and nephews. And I was down there with my son, and we were, I watched them, and it was so amazing because I have a few of them who they literally watch YouTube channels of kids playing. And I was so perplexed. I'm like, you all are really watching other kids play on a YouTube channel. I said, why don't you all just create your own YouTube channel and play so people can watch you all? Because it's really what you're doing is not something. So they look at these kids like, oh my gosh, they're celebrities. This is what they're doing. I said, they're not doing anything different from what you're doing. But again, the mindset is different, right? So there's that. As Dr. Joan, is it Joanne or Joan? I'm sorry, I don't know.
Joan.
Okay.
Joan.
Dr. Joan was saying, when you talk about how we need to really start from such a young age, that's very important, because as these kids are growing up, and even me, I had to rewire my mind as I got into the entrepreneurial space, because everything that I learned was really you taught how to consume and not produce. So we have to really embrace this idea of producing. Yes, I'm not saying you can't consume and can't have fun and enjoy yourself, but as Ricardo mentioned, we love to entertain. And guess who's making money off of our entertainment? It ain't us. Most of the time, it's not us. Our talent, our creativity. We're very creative people. We have not mastered how to capitalize on that and build an empire and wealth off of that, because we're so focused on consumption and maybe to a degree impressing others, instead of really having a mission to build wealth and something that's long lasting, that's going to outgrow us. So I think there's a lot of, it's very complex. I think these are just different things that we can tackle, but ultimately it comes down to, in my opinion, really changing our mindset in what we believe, what our focus is, what our goal is. And I think all of these things will eventually fall into place, because once you understand where you're going and what's needed, the activities and all of these behaviors that we're engaging in will say, okay, no, this is not really helping me towards this goal. This is not helping me towards that. I can rule those out and focus on only activities and things that are going to promote the growth of my goal or us as a people. So I think ultimately it comes down to what we believe in and our mentality.
Thank you. Thank you all for that. Great points, great points. I want to touch on a couple more questions before Austin runs us out. The almighty and the power of the Black dollar. We've talked about that, Austin. For those who can't see, Austin's telling me no, I have as much time with you as possible. Of course, you don't know that, but that's what he just said. So the power of the Black dollar, and there's some comments in the feed, and I wanted to read one of them, and I know we have some time for questions and answers a little later, but I wanted to read one of them. It says, Black people have the #1 spend power. Sadly, we choose to support business that don't support our cause. In a sense, we fund our oppression by paying our oppressors who cares nothing about us, or who care nothing about us. Thank you, Lyndon, for that. And there are more comments that I'm going to read later on. So the powerful and underestimated Black dollar, right? Austin, again, in his intro mentioned that Black dollar circulates for about 6 hours in our communities before it's spent elsewhere. 6 hours. As soon as we get it, we let it go. In one hand, out the other. And I'm guilty of it. In one hand, out the other. And we have almost $1.6 trillion of purchasing power. 1.6 trillion. I need everyone to understand the impact of that number. $1.6 trillion of purchasing power from disposable income. So my question to you is, how can we change this trend to ensure the success and survivability of our local and small businesses? Because we're talking about entrepreneurship. We're talking about building Black wealth, but we don't even know how to keep the money in our hands when we get it. We don't know what to do with it. And you've said it, some of you recently with your response, but how do we learn to keep the money in our hands and circulate it within our own communities? To Lyndon's point, how do we learn to support ourselves? Because we say it all the time, support Black Business Tuesday, right? Don't do this. Where, we talk a good talk. We really talk a good talk. No offense meant to anyone, but if you take offense, fine. But we talk a good talk, but we don't, to our point, we don't execute. We say we're going to support Black Business Tuesday. That came and went as quickly, that went as quickly as it came, right? We say support, if you see your Black entrepreneur open a nail shop, go to the nail shop, and you say, no, I want to go to the Asians. This is reality of what happens. And our Black businesses, often they don't survive in our communities because we don't support them. Right? So how do we change this trend and ensure that we do have some success and survivability within our local and small businesses? Because we're not successful right now, we're failing. I'll start with you, Dr. Ronald. Your mic is open, so I'll start with you.
Okay, sure. I'll try to be quick. I see some links that are dropped in the chat, and I think these are a really good way to start, right? We have different platforms that are promoting Black businesses, and there's the WeBuyBlack.com and so other platforms that are promoting Black businesses. I think we have to be very intentional about this, and so we had a meeting when we had a networking event a few weeks ago, and we had to make sure that they understood, the members that were there, and say, look, you have to commit to doing this. This really has to be something that's in your mind. Again, going back to the mental, you have to be very intentional about, okay, when I'm going to buy some coffee, I drink a lot of coffee. I don't drink coffee, but people that drink a lot of coffee, can you buy Black-owned coffee that's just as good, right? And be very intentional about that. I think once we start doing that and making little changes, and I'm bringing it down to a micro level, to the individual, everybody on this call, if there is something that you use very frequently, find out if there's somebody, a Black business that makes that product or service, and be intentional about seeing if you can replace that. Start with one thing, and then two, and then three. So even now, even like I own some real estate property. So every time I get a property, or every time I have a friend that gets a property, or anybody I know, I have an agent that I go to, and he insures the property. Black guy that has his own insurance. I'm like, that's just my way of doing things. I go to one or two people within that. Another thing, and this is just an idea, I'm throwing it out there since you all are on the call. All right. If there is, for example, we promote this throughout the chamber, if somebody has a Haitian product or needs a service or anything like that, look through the directory first. And if you can't find anybody, fine, you can go out, go elsewhere. But I believe, like you mentioned, we have such a big economy. There's no reason why, if we can't find it within the Georgia Haitian American Chamber of Commerce, why I can't call Jam Sham up with Jamaican Chamber of Commerce and say, hey, you got a contractor that can help me with this? Or go to the Atlanta Black Chambers and say, hey, can you all do that? Network alone, I promise you, we won't even have to leave, because that network already is so big. So I think, and this is just an idea, maybe we need to create, that can be another source or directory, if you will, where we just have this internetwork where, if I can't find it in my chamber, we'll go to that chamber. I need you to go through these 10 chambers before you go outside of the community to find that service or that product. So as we become more intentional about it, this is the way that we'll become better. And it's okay to critique. Personally, if the product is not good, the service is not good, give feedback and say, hey, you need to do better. I'm going to keep supporting, or I'm not going to support you until you get this better. And that helps the business, step their game up. So just because somebody isn't good, it doesn't help that you're quiet and you walk away and never use them again. Give them the critique. Let them know how they can be better so they can better themselves. And that way they continue to grow as a business, and maybe they'll earn you back as a customer one day. So I think these are ways that we can actually support each other. I believe it's completely possible. I don't even think we need to leave our community to get what we need. Most of what we need. There are some areas that are a little, but for the most part, I think we can find enough products and services within our community.
I agree. I think one of the key points you made was for the business to improve, we have to critique each other. We have to be able to accept that criticism without taking offense. Stephanie, I saw you nodding. Dr. Joan, I saw you. Well, Ricardo, I saw all of you nodding. So open your mics and just share your thoughts. Stephanie, go first, because I think we all agree.
I'm in love with what Ronald said. Everything that he said, like those are one of the things that we're trying to do, is build our business registry. We have to buy and we have to use our own day-to-day things. Handyman, attorneys, tech people, computers, software, everything is within our own communities. We can do it. And I agree with you 100%. If I can't find a Black-owned business that does whatever I need at that specific time, I should be able to go to my Jam Sister, my Atlanta Black Chamber, my Haitian Brothers Chamber, and all the other Ghanaian, Nigerian. We have so many of us that could do this. The problem is that we face a lot of obstacles within our own communities. Even within the library community that I'm affiliated with, a lot of times they think to themselves, oh, I'm not going to make this person rich. It's not making that person rich. It's circulating that dollar. It's economic development within our community. So that is a mindset that we have to change. It's so hard. We have to educate our people to understand that we need to do trade amongst ourselves. Another thing that I find is that we need more community support. Definitely, we need more community support and increased awareness about the Black dollar. We definitely need increased awareness. We had a business expo recently, and one of our business members, they own a luxury brand cocktail up north in New Jersey. And that was one of the discussions at our B2B. We usually have a B2B dinner the night before, and they were talking about the power of that Black dollar and working and trade and the value of it. And it was so amazing that the whole conversation ended up us talking about the power of Black spending. So I think that was amazing. And we need to, like you said, quality products and effective customer service. Customer service, customer service, customer service, customer service, customer service. I cannot say it enough. Sometimes we, and I include all of us, you go into a Black-owned business and they don't have that professionalism. They'll come and say, or it says 9 to 5, but today they're open 11. Tomorrow they're open at 8. The next day they're not open. Like consistency, professionalism. These are things that we have to teach our community to show that, you know, if you want to make that money, you've got to be able to be more consistent. So those are the things that I noticed, but Dr. Situ, I'm online with what you're saying. And I know, you did, we're talking to Ricardo about the software stuff, and I think you forgot that you didn't follow up.
Oh, yes.
So I wanted to hear
I did.
about the software stuff. Because Ricardo, let me tell you, I've worked with Ricardo. He is amazing. He got really busy, but he's been doing some great, amazing stuff. So I'd love to hear what he has to say about the software.
Thank you for reminding me, cuz. Thank you. I appreciate it. That's family. I appreciate you. I appreciate it. Dr. Jones, did you have anything before I go back to Ricardo? And now you have 2 questions to answer, Ricardo.
Well, they both said what I was going to say. I was going to say I would answer twofold. We need internal work and external work. The internal work is customer service. We can't tell people to support Black and buy Black if Black isn't standing up amongst those who are coming up to the level. We need expert people. We need luxury items. We need people who are consistent with customer service. We need to be trained and understand that when you're in business, you're serving. It's a privilege for people to support you.
Exactly.
They don't have to. And so you cannot force people to support you just because you're Black. You have to make sure that you're giving them value for money, right? And you don't just charge a price because everybody on Instagram is charging $900 to do a weave. Okay, is my weave gonna look like the $1,000 weave when I pay you $900? You know what I'm saying? So customer service is very lacking in our community, and we need to work on that. The external things are obviously, as we mentioned, collaboration. If you look at sea creatures, no fish, no sea creature need anybody, any land creature to survive. We have enough as, I think, I'm not sure if it's Ricardo, but the gentleman who spoke, we have enough resources in our community where, as you mentioned, we don't have to go anywhere. We can stay in our sea and support our sea creatures. However, one of the things that we lack is marketing and visibility. If you have the solution, but nobody knows you have the solution, then you don't have a solution. There has to be some level of, and let me quickly talk about this. You know how the Chinese work, right? If you sign on to Temu or any other app that you're getting they bombard you every single day with information, right? They make you know that they're there. So we need to find some way of making ourselves more visible, not showy, visible. So we're showy, we're out there, but we're not communicating, because just because you're talking doesn't mean you're communicating. If the people you're talking to isn't apprehending and comprehending what you're saying so that they can execute, then all you're doing is really just verbalizing. So we need to find a way to be more visible. We have to be more intentional. We have to be more targeted. We have to have better customer service. And then we need to boycott anything that doesn't serve our purpose as a Black community.
I love it. Thank you. I love it. Ricardo, I apologize first for forgetting about the technology piece, but now you have 2 questions to respond to. So first, tell us about the technology, and then answer the caveat into everything else. Well, but one thing I wanted to say too is I always, Austin knows I'm very blunt. We also can't build by being lazy. You know, we like to have the business, but we don't work on the business. We want to sleep late. You have the business, so you start sleeping later, or you go out more, or you start going to the restaurants. We can't build a business by being lazy. We have to get up at the 5 o'clock in the morning, the 4 o'clock in the morning. I say it, but it hurts my feelings, but you have to do that. You know, sleepless nights, literally, to build your business. And I'm not telling you to strain yourself and you don't have any energy, or, you make yourself unhealthy, but you have to change it. You have to have that mindset. I've got to get up and grind. I've got to get up and grind. So I just wanted to say that because I'll forget. Ricardo, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm muting my mic. I'm done.
Well, that 100%, Rhonda, I think, so on your 2 points, so what do we do to, how do we do the technology piece? There's a lot of fear around tech, just as how there's fear around financing or financial literacy. And it stems from, our history and just some of the things that we were told not to do. I don't know if any of you remember, parents used to say, don't do that. You're kind of trying to be creative with a cup or with some paper or some plastic. And said, well, don't do that, go sit down in the corner. And or creativity has been stifled since we were kids. And we don't understand that we are creators ourselves. We were created to create. And if the more we understand that, I think the more our creative juice will flow, right? You can't be in tech if you're not a creator, because the ownership rights, the mentality for ownership starts with accepting that your job on earth is to execute your creative purpose, creating. In the beginning, God created. And he created man to create and to further. He said, go and create. But we have been stifled, or parents, shame on us, keep telling us, don't go do any creation. I said, sit down and stay right there, and you shouldn't do any of that stuff. We have to change that. And the best way to get into tech is we have to start thinking about that. We got to go by, how do we create? How do we create stuff? If you're on social media, how do we create? And then that interest, right? Because I believe creativity is intentional. Like, you have to be interested, on the market front. It's this whole idea of being curious. I always use the term ABC, always be curious, not Atlanta Black Chamber, but always be curious, always be learning. You've got to be able to do that. I faced it personally when I was in school. I raised my hand all the time. A teacher used to say, we don't want you to answer, Ricardo. We don't want you to ask any questions. We want someone else. And it's like you get shut down because of your curiosity. But curiosity drives creativity, and creativity drives innovation. So we have to get back to those things, as Dr. Jones says, but get back to it at the kids. We all are familiar with the dough or the dumpling or whatever we want to call it. When you need that, when you put the water and the flour together, you got handle on it, because it is at that stage where you can create anything you want. I've seen this kind of this spinach dumpling, the round ones, the square one. The moment you put that dough in the sun, guess what? You're going to have to probably get a hammer to crack that up. It's no longer moldable. So we have to get back to those stages where our kids or folks we have to get them to that stage where they can be molded, and we can help to shape them into who we want. Because when I entered tech, it was all about intentionality. My first company was a tutoring company because I had the gift of math and I knew numbers, and all these other stuff came natural to me. But in order for me to have gone into tech, I'm just curious. How does this work? What is this? How do I get to this? And I had to learn the computer can't do you any harm. You created it. So the only thing it can do is whatever you put in is going to get out. So it's just those kinds of understanding. To your next point, I think, I would echo the sentiment again, Dr. Joan, about value. In marketing, people buy what they want. The market will do what it wants to do. If you have something of value, and I would say immense, irresistible value, people will buy it. But if you don't, you can't be surprised that nobody's going to be supporting you and nobody's going to be buying. How many times have we walked into restaurants and locations for our own people, and it's a disaster? It never started that way. It ended that way. And the challenge is, why would I need to buy that? Because I'm looking for a certain value. If you cannot create value, this is not about the money. People will spend money with you if the value is there. So you've got to be in a position to create value, but go further than your peers and make it irresistible value. I told a gentleman today that people buy the difference, particularly the difference is wow. People love to buy the difference. How many of you have gone and bought the same thing that your peers are buying? We don't operate like that. We don't like to hear how many Tony Braxton you know and you can identify with on the radio. Only one, right? And then you can now hear a Babyface or Lionel Richie or whoever else. They have so much uniqueness in their voice, because people buy the difference. When you go into a store, you see a dress or you see an outfit, you're like, wow, I like this. It just looks so different. And so this is how we have to think. The value that we're all creating for ourselves or businesses, we've got to go beyond just doing it because we can do it. We need to go further, go an extra mile further, make it immense, make it irresistible. So dropping value so that people would be like, wow, I want this. People want the best. You know, one of the major search term on Google is best, right? The best this, the best that, near me, right? And this is a reason, because people want to associate themselves with that. So we have a responsibility. Anything that we're touching, anything that we're doing, let's give it a go. Let's go for the very best of it. And that is going to begin to attract the people that we actually want to attract, because the market will buy what it wants. But if there is value there, the market is willing to spend the money. Do you know how many of our people drive BMWs and Mercedes Benz? And, it's crazy to me, right? Where I was just sitting outside with dinner and here with one of my buddies. And I mean, there's so many, it's very interesting, but these are some of the best vehicles out there, and our people want to drive them. Right? Or people want to drive these things, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's the demand for quality is what we have to step up to the plate to. The other thing as a marketer, I'll say, we've got to get used to asking people, how did I do? Like, we've got to ask for feedback, because a lot of us don't ask. A lot of us think that we got it all pat together and we don't need to be, I don't need to be asked because I know, we delivered. But ask. Sometimes it's just one survey with 3 questions. How did we do? How do you rate us? We've experienced those things from other cultures, people, other communities. We need to be able to put those things in place. I come to your restaurant. Hey, Ricardo, thank you for buying. How did I do? Talk to us. Ask for the feedback, because that's going to actually help. Because a lot of us shy away because we know our people. I don't want you to go bust my head because I say, man, why this thing was so spicy, and and then becomes a challenge. But if we can get into the habit of asking for feedback, tell me what you think. Be honest with me. How do you want this the next time? I think we would have been in a much better place if we start practicing these things. These are small, we call them mustard seed problems, right? Because they're so small, but if we let them fester, it becomes this big, gigantic sort of tree in our backyard that we can't get rid of.
Do you think, and before we get into the question, thank you, Ricardo. Before we get into the question and answer segment, and again, if you don't want to open your mic, please drop your questions in the chat. Austin, I asked you to check the live and drop your questions. If anyone wants to drop it on Facebook Live, please drop your questions in the live. We actually covered a lot of the questions that Councilman Thompson had written for us to address through the conversation. But and we spoke about the challenges and we spoke about the Black businesses, small business owners, and how they need to accept feedback, how they need to approach the community by asking the questions. Do you think that part of it is because we don't see value in shopping within our community? Do you think that's an issue, that we don't see shopping in our community, or because we, as Dr. Ronald said, we don't have to go outside of our diaspora. We don't have to go outside of our community to get things done. I have a lawman, y'all want him, I can show you, he's Haitian. I stopped using Craigslist. I found him on Craigslist, but then I canceled my Craigslist and started using him. Do we not see the value in utilizing and going to our Black businesses and okay, I see the hand up already. Thank you. And going to our Black businesses and participating in purchasing from them? Is there a trust issue? Maybe that's my question. Do you think we have a trust issue happening in our community with our Black businesses? Everybody's nodding.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Rhonda. If I may jump in on that quickly, because the trust, right? People do business with people they say that they like, trust, and know, like, and trust, right? But in order for you to know me, I have to be vulnerable at times, and in order for me to be vulnerable, I have to be honest, and so forth and so on, and to build trust and to gain trust. But yes, I think it historically we have just really lost confidence in each other's stuff because we just throw anything up and just, well, as they say in the Jamaican term, catch it up, just catch it up on the corner and just set it right there. And it's
It
like,
sounds so good when you say it so properly, catch it up.
yeah, catch it up, but it's like, why do we have to settle for that,
Right.
and these are the little things, these little traits. They were years ago, they were here, and we kind of grew up on those stuff, right? We make things ourselves. One of the things I love about America, in some places, I've never been everywhere, so I can't speak to that, but in my community, you can't just catch anything up because you'll get fined for that. There are rules and there are laws that you have to follow, but then you go on the island and you realize that, okay, a house is started, it's got no window, and it's been there for 4 years, it's not completed, it jacks up the other house, the value of the other house goes down, then you've got a goat pen down the street there and all these other stuff, and it's like, how do we get out of that? Because we could change location, but we are still the same set of people. All we did was just change a location. So we've got to get to the root of the thing, which is get back to those bases. And, we're who we are, and we have been where we are today because of who we are and what we've been. But if we're going to go elsewhere, what does my great-grandchild have to say about me? Because I had some stuff to say about my great-grandfather. He was a soldier, but I didn't think he did enough. He was exposed as a soldier fighting for rights in the region, but I didn't think he went further enough, because then I'm here 40 plus years after. Is this how long it's going to take my great-grandchild to get it 40 plus years from now? This is a challenge. We need this to happen right away. We need this to happen quickly. We need wealth to be created quickly. We need it to happen right away to go back into the community and make the difference.
Do you think we're too consumed in our past to be able to move on? Do you think we're too consumed in our past and too consumed what happened with our ancestors and the fighting that, and not appreciating that they fought for a reason, and they did what they did for a reason, for us to be able to build and to have our businesses and to walk freely and to move freely and to build generational wealth? Do you think, I see you shaking your head, Dr. Ronald, go ahead, speak.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think there's the trust issue, and I do think that a lot of people are stuck in their past. Typically, as I'm running into, when I first became president of the chamber, I ran into a lot of people who like, oh, you just can't, Haitians will say this. Of course, this happens in every community, Jamaicans, whatever. They hate, you can't do business with other Haitians. Haitians don't, not professional.
Yeah, yes.
But it wasn't my experience, because the new Haitian businesses, like the millennials that are opening up businesses, I was so impressed with the service, the caliber, the ambiance of these businesses. They were really taking things to another level. You look at Rocksteady in downtown Atlanta, Zeke's that's in Smyrna. A lot of these businesses have really understood that, okay, we're taking things to the next level. But I was battling people who were still stuck in whatever happened in the past. And so because they're stuck there and they're so traumatized by culturally what's happened, historically what's happened to us as a people, they aren't allowing themselves to see what's in front of them and to build the opportunities or the beautiful things that are actually unfolding right before their eyes, or partner or team up with the people who have the vision or chasing the vision that they actually have. So I do think that we're kind of stuck. Some of us are stuck to a degree with that, and that needs to change. There's also the there was something else that you said I was about to touch on, and it just skipped my mind. But long story short, I think that in order for us to really move forward, we have to be okay with understanding that we have to value ourselves, one. And I think one of the issues that we have is that we don't understand as a people what it takes to build, how long it takes to build, the grit and the troubles and all the cycle that it takes to actually come out with a diamond. And so we look at other communities and be like, well, this community has this, or they have this and that. And we're expecting these small businesses or our community to look like that tomorrow, by the end of the week, by the end of the year.
Right.
But when you look at these communities, they've been building for a long time. It took years to refine the process, refine the system, get it right or wrong. Okay, she did this. This was bad customer service. You got to keep working on it. And if we understand that there is a process to all of that, we'll be a bit more forgiving, but we'll also be holding them accountable. Somebody put accountability. I forgot who said that.
Yeah.
Something about reliability and accountability.
Accountability,
At the same time, we say, when I see something wrong, this is our vision. You're not living up to that standard.
Right.
If you're not going to do that, I need you to shut this down, because this is not who we are as a people.
We
And
can
as long
rate
as-
our own business.
Exactly. So I think I do believe we're on the right path, though I think very slow. But we also have, some of us are still not seeing the value that we actually have, and that hinders us. I'll say one last thing. I lead the center here at the Entrepreneurship Center here at Clark Carolina University. And it was interesting. I was walking by one day on campus, and there was a security guard, a young kid, and he was like, "Oh man, I would never go to an HBCU." And I was like, that's very interesting. I've heard these conversations before, but they don't get me riled up. I mean, I've heard all of it. But I thought that was interesting that he would work for an HBCU and get the money, but he doesn't believe the education has enough quality to get him to where he needs to go. Though HBCUs that only 100 of them left have lifted 60 to 70% of Black people into the middle class. Outside of all the thousands of institutions, including the Ivy League, HBCUs have been the one to lift these Black people into the middle class and economically change lives. We as a people don't see value in our own institutions. And so whether we're doing that subconsciously or overtly, it's one of the things that we struggle with that you mentioned, because we are not seeing the value. And so when we go to a Black business or a small business, subconsciously we're like, I help them out, but I'm not really going to give them my full
Like you're doing a favor. It's more you're doing a
Exactly.
favor for them. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. So we have some questions. We're going to get into the question and answer group. Let me see. And I love how everyone is dropping their business and their contact information. Y'all understood the assignment. You understood the assignment. Austin, directory is starting right here. It's starting right here. Everyone's dropping. So if you have a business, there was someone I wanted to come on. She's actually doing her infusions, but I will tell a little bit more about her initiative. We're trying to adopt a clinic in Jamaica, but I'll talk more about that after we get to the question and answer. So Nadine, you had your hand up first. Miss Nadine Ellis, do you want to open your mic and ask your question to the panelists?
Well, I think my question was answered, or I was just making a statement regarding to why we're not contributing to our Black business is that discipline. We're not disciplined enough to stay open for a long period of time, like he said. The sacrifice that we have to make. But what we were taught, like Dr. Wright said before, we were taught to use our own money. So we drained our bank account. There's no money into that bank account to even stay disciplined. So when we can understand how to get that business loan, or we're finding out different ways for the business loan to just get certain things of generation wealth. What are we leaving back for our next generation for that business to keep going? And if we can understand that debt management and having our debt down and having our credit score, that we can go out and get that business loan, that will be great. You guys talk a lot of nuggets and throw a lot of the nuggets out, but we need more seminars regarding to these small business owners to get more loans and how to get their credit going, and how to get those business plans going. It's a whole lot of stuff that we need to work on to make sure the business stay open. because we cannot just use all our money and then there's no money to pay the workers. No one is coming in. So that's why too, the business are closing down. So, and if our next door neighbor is $1.25, because now it's not the 99 cents anymore, right? It's 1.25, and our Black business are 1.50. We rather go to the 1.25, right? Because we want to save an extra 25 cents or extra 10 cents. Well, why not? Why not support the Black business? They have to be a little bit more, because they're not getting the break from the consumer part when they're buying the goods. So there's a whole lot that is going on in the Black area, but we just have to come together and just pay attention and help each other out. Let's get those business loans and show them how to use other people's money. Thanks for letting me share.
Thank you, Nadine. We appreciate you. Gabe's S22. You also have your hand up. First of all, before you speak, Gabe's, I hope it's Gabe's. Okay, before you speak, did any of the panelists want to address what Nadine just said?
Yeah.
Don't laugh at me.
Yes, can I say something?
Absolutely.
I think, again, it goes back to what we said earlier about the education, and then Ronald said something that was very important about execution. However, there is a statement that we know that says you can teach someone to fish, but you can't force them. You can't take them to the river and say, here, fish now. And so again, it goes back to that mindset where we have to teach that business is not making money. A lot of people, they start business because they want to make a quick buck. And as soon as they make that buck, then they close. We have to understand that in business, you have to leverage your money. So when you get your first dollar, you don't go out and buy the first purse or shoes you see. You put it back in the business and then you flip that. So in other words, when I started my first business, right? What I did, I listened carefully to the questions that people were asking me. So when people started asking, how did you do that? How did you do that? I realized, okay, now I can make more offer. So what we don't understand in business is that the more offers you make, the more money you make. When you make more offers, right? Now you are giving your people what they're asking for. That's why it's very important to ask, how well did I do? Because based on the response they gave you, now you can actually create another product or service to provide a solution in a particular niche. Now, when you get that money, you go out and again, you split that money and leverage. So now you can now you have a business, maybe you can buy a vending machine, maybe you can buy an ATM, maybe now you can provide aftercare service. These are different ways of leveraging your business and making more money. So as your business grow, now after you leverage, then you can scale. The whole idea of making legacy businesses is so that you can scale, so that the business can make money with or without you. Unless your business is leveraged and scale, you don't really have a business. So a lot of people have expensive hobbies, they don't have businesses. And so the education of how to run an effective business is one of the key things that is lacking.
Thank you, Dr. Joan. Thank you. Any other comments from the panelists?
Wait, Joan, you imparted
just said
a
dissertation.
You imparted a really big nugget there when you said people have expensive hobbies.
Yes.
Repeat that for the
Yes.
people way
Put them in the back.
way in the back. That was priceless. So just to emphasize that.
Yes. Whew. I
It's
wish
so
I could
true.
help everybody.
She said, woo. And one of the things that came to my mind when you said that is often, because when I was talking about, and this, I was thinking of what I wanted to say when I was talking about trusting our own Black businesses. We don't like to, we often don't value what our business is charging. So if we have a person, whether it be a DJ or an event center, whatever we're doing, and we go to them and we say, we want to do this wedding, we want to do this event, and they give you their price for their service. Oh, well, we did have a budget about 200, and you want the glamour lights and the chandeliers and the jumping, you want all this glamour and glitz, but you want to ball on a budget, right? We don't want to support we don't, Austin, I'm sorry, I'm going off now. We want to ball on a budget, but And we don't see any value. And Austin knows because I do it all the time. You know, can you please, can you come, can you talk, can you do and everything? I'm like, well, I need to drive there. You know, I need to get.
Yes.
But we don't want to invest and you give your price and it's like you undervalue our price. And then, but you'll go over there
There
and
you
they give you double the
Mm.
price and you go ahead and you invest in them. And so I think we need to understand that as well. And who it offends, it should offend you. But we need to consider that because when we give you a price for our service, whether it be Stephanie coming to speech or Dr. Joan with Power or, you know, Dr. Ronald or Ricardo with his technical savvy abilities, when we give you a price, that's our price.
Mhm.
Right now, if we disappoint you after you've received that service, then
There
I
you go.
understand it's not coming back to us. What I don't understand is you going to the next person,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
investing in them for the same service and paying more.
Mhm.
And that's where I was going with the value of our business. So I wanted to say that, sorry.
Sometimes because we don't have boundaries.
There you go.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Perfect. Perfect. And I like that. I'm gonna stick with the expensive hobbies part. I'm gonna use that for the rest of the week, month, every speech I do from now on. I'm sorry. So thank you for being patient. Again, thank you everyone who's here, everyone on the live. Thank you so much for being
Did we
here.
get Gabe?
And
Did we get
Gabe, I'm gonna get Gabe right now. I
Okay.
know. I'm not doing my job. Gabe's S22. Go ahead with your question.
All right, thank you so much. And thank you,
welcome.
Austin. Thank you very much. My name is Gabriel Koye. I represent Lawrenceville and the State House. Um, I have been listening to this wonderful discussion, and I am so impressed. Austin, thank you, and all the participants, thank you so much. Now, I'm going to tell you a short story and then ask my question. But before I do, I also want to throw a challenge that this discussion, we don't leave here today without having some actionable follow-ups.
Yeah.
Because that is how you concretize the decisions you reach. After these discussions, what next? So we can go from just talking to implementing. I think I'm speaking Ricardo's language right there. All right. Now, listen, if you go out here in Gwinnett County along Pleasant Hill Road, you will see contentment of a group, the Asians. After a while, you will not going to find any more signs in English. It's all in language I cannot read. Maybe some of you read Asian and then you can read it, but if you can't, if you're in my shoe, you can't read any of it. Now, are they trying to sell to me? Absolutely not. If they were trying to sell to me, I can read. But that shows contentment, and I want us to copy that because they keep their money circulating in their community at least 20 times before it leaves. And that is why you can't find an Asian by the roadside with a sign, will work for food. All right? So let's say
Gabe, you better say that again. Say you can't what?
you
You cannot
cannot
find an
find
Asian where?
and by the roadside with a sign, will work for food. Hungry, will work for food. You don't see that. All right. And the Jews, they keep their money circulating a minimum of 15 times. And they are the richest bunch. Now, when it comes to us, we have a one-way road. It doesn't even have a yield sign. Money comes in one way and it keeps going, goes out the other way, right? Not even a yield. And at a point, here's a story now. I brought together all the big pastors in this county and some business people. And I told them, I'm tired of hearing complaints. Let's help ourselves because we have the ability and the capacity to do so. I said, since we don't get loans easy, let us start our own credit union. Okay, we need to start owning stuff, not always using stuff. Okay, they agreed. We even brought a credit union expert, and we used to hold these meetings in the boardroom of Hopewell Baptist Church, if any of you know where that is in Norcross. But guess what? When it came to how we can raise the money to get this going, I made a proposal. I said, the reason I brought mostly the pastors here is because they control thousands in their congregation, thousands of membership. If if they can ask each of their members to take a year to come up with $100 to buy shares into this initiative, we will have more money than we need. Well, therein lies a problem, because many of them said, but if we do that, how about the money they're going to use to pay their tithes? Right? And so we could not go forward because the pastors are more concerned about tithe money than community progress.
Mm.
So how do you address that? Though at the time I did that, I just left office as Democratic Party chairman in Gwinnett. So I left that, but I was not comfortable. So I'm back at it again, this time with the help of another friend. We're pulling together some of the big Black business owners so we can go through them to raise the funds to get this thing done, because we can't be complaining. We can start earning. If you know, the Summit National Bank is a 4-story building, I think it's off Beaufort Highway. That used to be a credit union owned by the Asians. They worked it into such a big bank today. Why can't we do these things? We shouldn't always be complaining. And I am done with living in the past. We must know our past. We must learn from it, but we must, and more must move forward. So my question is, how do we address such kind of attitude? We agreed that this was the right move to make, start owning our own. And then the people who are in the position to help make it happen didn't. And we still complain when we go to the banks and the white banks turn us down. Right? So that was it. Sorry it took long for the question to come out, but just wanted to pick your brain.
Thank you, Gabe. Gabe, can you put your information in the chat as well? So because you sort of like really rushed over what you do. And it's very important. You represent one of the communities here in Lawrenceville. Go ahead, Austin.
I just want to say real quick, Honorable Representative Gabriel Okoye is one of 5 Nigerians who were elected to the Georgia House of Representatives in the November 2022 elections. He represents House District 102 and is a very passionate brother for progressive business and initiatives, not only in his district, but in our community. So I'm glad he's on the call. That's all I wanted to say. Yeah.
Thank you, Austin. Thank you.
And Gabe, if the honorable, say it again, Austin, I'm doing 5 things. I'm still promoting, still sharing the honorable representative.
Yes.
Gabriel Okul. I got it. I know.
And he was honorable prior to being elected.
No, you made some. Go ahead.
Just Gabe Okoye, if nothing else.
Just Gabe Okoye, if nothing else. Thank you. You made some great points. So to the panelists, your feedback on what Honorable Member Okul said a few minutes ago. He threw a lot of nuggets out there, a lot of things out there. Stephanie and I were sort of like, flashing our hands, and especially when he mentioned Pleasant Hill Road. If you haven't been there, just drive down it one day. Just drive down it one day, and you'll get a full understanding of what he is alluding to. Yeah, so go ahead. Dr. Ronald, go ahead. You were gonna say something.
Yeah, sure. And Honorable Okoye, Gabe Okoye, I appreciate you your service and your words and your request and your question about what what some actionable steps are, or maybe not leaving this as a conversation that just happened on August 10th of 2023. Personally, I think one of the things that we can do that might be practical for us is, there are some people here who are leading organizations. And maybe one thing that we can do is get together and look at our missions, what aligns, because we all essentially, there's an underlying thing here that we're trying to achieve as a community, but each one of us two are subsects of a community, of a larger community that we're serving. And so I think, when you're looking at some of the chamber presidents here or leaders within board members of the chambers, I think one of the easiest things to do right now is to, for us to actually come together, decide on an agenda, maybe that can start locally or something that can expand nationally, but really put something together that's going to empower our community here. Because again, our network here, if we can start on a micro level and really find ways to connect and empower our community here within the Georgia region, I think that might be something that we can do. It doesn't have to be anything complicated, but we can kind of let things grow organically from there. All the crazy ideas that I have, and I'm pretty sure Stephanie has, and Joe, they'll come out. But those who are leading in a position to actually have an impact, or that are leading some organization, and those here on the call as well, if you have things that you are doing, I think we can meet and just do something small around this conversation today, even if that's just a directory or something like that. I think that might be a good first step to first connecting us, so we stop working in silos, and then we can look at other opportunities in terms of how we can connect each other to resources, and attacking some of the other issues, the many issues that we have within our community. So I think that's a reasonable first step. I don't know if the other panelists want to say something about that. Feel free to chime in.
I want
And
to say,
thank you for the question again.
get out of my head, Ron. I need you to just get out of my head. Because I took my mic off, but you spoke first, but exactly what you said, what I was thinking, and that could start with that. And even to Gabe something, I don't want to disrespect, because I know there's some pastors here, and sometimes they have a different agenda than we would spiritually. But I think that even with investments, we spoke about this many times in our group. I believe even Ricardo, we've spoken about the investments and groups together, and even seeking like niche markets and all that kind of stuff to invest in and come together as one powerful group to make an investment and make an impact. So like what Ronald said, and even what Ricardo and I and many other chambers have discussed, it's important that we get maybe even our business community, we're more like-minded when it comes to investment to present such a project, because you would have more of those people that would more likely invest in not just $100, but even more, or even have a collective niche amount of investors that would be able to do that. So I would more look towards your chambers and your business-minded people when it came to that, more than your church. I know you wanted community involved, but that would have to come under marketing and so forth and sell that idea to the rest of the community. But as far as investment part of it, that would more be the things that we would be more interested in, the business, the chambers community for investment, because I'd really be interested in something like that, Gabe. So, you're in my district, so holla back.
Holla back.
Stephanie, we'll be talking, Stephanie, no problem. All right.
Thank you, Honorable Kate. Okay.
But I'm sorry. I still think, because the reason I'm pushing for this is that I'm really tired of talking. We've talked for how many years, and we're still talking. I would love for great coming together like this to always end up with having something. It's not going to be accomplished tonight, but come to an agreement. Okay, let us all come together and work on this. So one thing after another. That's how progress is made. Somebody said we have to be patient. Yes, patience is needed, it's vital, but we have to put the next step in front of the last one, even if it's slow. We need to do that because my experience is we we talk a lot, and then once we go home, that's the end of it. We do nothing. You see, and that's not going to get us anywhere. So, yeah, great. Austin is already making plans for another brainstorming. That is wonderful. That is also an actionable item arising from here. So in that time, we would have thought about my challenge. What can we get out of this? It doesn't have to be benefit us individually, but if we can pull our community forward, we have done a great service to our people. Thank you.
Honorable Kay. Thank you, Honorable Kay. I think, I think what Austin is suggesting is, since this is a two-part series, and we having a discussion coming up, we probably may have more ideas and suggestions from that particular conversation as well. And then what we're going to do is we're going to meet in person and brainstorm. I think it's key that we meet in person and brainstorm. I think that's where we're going to get the most out of it. One, we get to meet each other and connect to all the great people and meet each other face to face. But then we sit and have conversation and do that. So I think that's where Austin was going with that. If, Austin, you can speak to that. I think I saw your message in the chat.
Yeah, because building the Black economy, that is exactly the purpose of the event. And I think it's probably time we wrap up because we want to be respectful of people's time. That is exactly the purpose of part one and part two. And tonight's part, we wanted to have the chambers discuss their role in building the Black economy and helping drive success for their members. Next week, and I'm equally excited about next week as I was about tonight. We're going to have a representative from the new Black Wall Street Market. We're going to have a representative from the Freedom Georgia Initiative. That's the initiative where 19 families came together to buy 100 acres of land in Toomsboro, Georgia, and to replicate what we know was Black Wall Street in Greenwood, Tulsa, Oklahoma. So, that is going to be an extremely wonderful conversation. The Russell Innovation Center for Entrepreneurship, RICE, will be on the panel. InvestFit, Mr. Samuel Richmond. He will be an exciting young gentleman who is in the investment space. He's not building out a mixed-use facility on the west side in Cobb County. We wanted it in Gwinnett, but he's doing it in Cobb, but it's okay. He lives in Gwinnett. He lives in Lawrenceville. He's one of my constituents. So he will be on the panel as well. And Mark Ham of the Ham Real Estate Group. Stephanie spoke about real estate tonight. There's also conversations about investments and financial literacy. Those will be more of the conversations next week, along with New Black Wall Street, the Freedom Georgia Initiative, and the Russell Innovation Center for Entrepreneurship. I definitely, and again, in respect of everyone's time, because it's 6 minutes after 8, and I know Ricardo has to get to bed. He was traveling in the air all day. He's down in Colombia. Send us some nice pics, Ricardo. And I just want to say thanks to everyone. This was a mind-blowing conversation, discussing critical topics surrounding building the Black economy, because it is beyond time that we as African people, whether we're Caribbean, whether we're African-American, we as African people, it's about time that we put conversation to action. I know Brother Gabe talked about, our honorable representative talked about action planning, and that is going to be part of the conversation for next week, but we're going to follow both of these conversations up with a brainstorming action plan session that we're going to invite people to attend. And that will also lead into building a Black business directory. Because if we're going to close the wealth gap, if we're going to grow wealth for our communities and build the strong communities, Honorable Representative talked about Pleasant Hill, and I see that all the time, right? And no disrespect, let me tell you something. Every community, the Koreans, Hispanics, Jews, everybody, they all have a right to build wealth for their communities. They do, just as we have a right to build wealth for our communities, unapologetically, and intentionally, you know,
Yes.
without fear of anything, you know, and we don't have to hide. We should do it intentionally because we have every right to do so, you know, leaving wealth for our families. You know, I think, as I read one time, the destruction of Greenwood, Tulsa, Oklahoma took about $3 or $4 billion of generational wealth away from those families, right? When we think about how wealthy that area could have been to this day, Rosewood, Wilmington, North Carolina, all of these communities that were destroyed, right? And we see a project like the Freedom Georgia Initiative, where 19 Black families said, you know what? We want to build wealth for our families and families who want to come and join us. They came together, collaboration, partnership, right? Brother Ricardo Barris spoke about that, right? Collaborating and building relationships, coming together. The thing about it, they didn't even know each other. It's not like they all grew up together. These were individuals who were in the real estate space, investment space, and they decided to come together, galvanize support among themselves to build, to buy 100 acres of land in Toomsboro, Georgia, and now to build a prosperous community for themselves. We can do it. We can do it and not apologize for it. There's no reason why we can't build wealth for ourselves and our communities, all right? So tonight's conversation is the first part of a two-part series. Next, on the 31st, August the 31st, we will have Building the Black Economy Part 2, but we will have representatives from those organizations, all confirmed, right? On the 31st, the information will start going out by this weekend for the 31st. We want you to share that information. We want you to make sure that, you know, we get all our key individuals on that call, on the Zoom call, because we want to make sure, as we are in the month of celebrating National Black Business Month, National Black Businesses, we are talking about, the conversation is, how can we build and grow wealth utilizing the businesses that we have launched, started, and now we have to scale them successfully, and other areas in which we can grow the wealth in our communities and keep the wealth in our communities as much as possible. So that's 6 hour, that's six hour circulation of the Black dollar, you know, 6 hours, that can grow and expand, right? Because the Black dollar can stay more in our communities if we build it the way we need to build it and doing the things we need to do. But we've got to come together. We've got to build these collaborations. We talked a little bit tonight about trade with Ricardo and the Liberian Chamber. Next week, we'll talk about how are we going to really capitalize on the trade that's going on in Africa, with the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. I'm still looking to get a representative that can talk about that and how we in our communities can trade with African countries and African businesses, right? Looking to still have a representative from one of two Black banks that I've contacted to find out now how the Black banks are benefiting Black-owned businesses when they're launching, when they're looking to have capital, access to capital and financial resources, not only to launch, but to scale successfully. So that's going to be part of that conversation on the 31st of August, all right? So I want to say thank you so much. I want to say thank you so much for being a part of this conversation tonight, everybody who signed on. I want to thank the Liberian Chamber. I want to thank the Haitian Chamber. I want to thank the Atlanta Black Chamber, Jam Cham, the Jamaican Chamber, our very own Rose Solo, the Phoenix, you know, and I applaud her for all the work that she has done in the media space. We need access to our own media as well, because telling our story, we talk, I think it was Dr. Satut that said, we need to advertise ourselves more. We need to make ourselves more visible, right? If the market has to know that we are here, right? And we have to speak loud, right? It's about building the African brand, building the Black brand, there are Black-owned businesses, and we do it, and we have to do it unapologetically, because I never apologize for that, right? Because other cultures don't, all right? So I'll leave it to Rosolo if you have any last words as moderator.
Thank you, Austin. Thank you, Austin, for Councilman Austin Thompson, for putting this together. I appreciate you for making me a part of this conversation and inviting me to be moderator. So many nuggets were thrown tonight, and I hope this conversation was inspirational, and it forced us to think differently and sort of starting to light a fire under us so we can start doing things differently. I look forward to meeting each and every one of you in person, Dr. Ronald, Ricardo, Cousin Stephanie, and Dr. Joan Wright. Power is coming up on November the 11th. I'm winking again. And anything you need from me, I'm there. Again, my name is Rosolo. Everyone, I'm Rhonda Solomon. I'm Rosolo the Phoenix. You can always check me out every Tuesday, 7 to 9 p.m. on the Rosolo Show. And look out for Phoenix Radio. It's coming soon on the Phoenix Media platform. If you ever need a host, a moderator, or anyone to tell your story, I am your girl, I'm here. I put the information about Caribbean Angels in the group. We are trying to, Andrea's here, but we don't have any time, but she's trying to adopt a clinic in Jamaica. We're having a fundraiser, so please reach out to Andrea for more information. And she also owns a Black-owned urgent care center, Black-owned, female-owned, Yachty-owned. So please go and support her. And to the panelists, thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your knowledge. Thank you for uplifting and supporting our community. We appreciate you. We honor you. It was an honor being here. Y'all have a great rest of your night. Austin, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you all. God bless. Continue to grow successfully. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Quentin. Good
Good
night.
night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Ricardo,
Good
travel
night.
safely,
Meeting
my
you,
brother.
Ronald.
Thank you. Thank
Travel
you.
safely,
Bye.
man. Be safe.
Ricardo,
out there.
get some
Stephanie.
rest. Get
Will
some
do.
rest.
Enjoy Colombia first, Ricardo.
Thanks,
Yes.
Austin.
All right.
Thanks, Rhonda.
Thanks,
Thank you. Good night. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.